This is Fruity Reverb 2, which I'm going to demonstrate right now using a melody that I just came up with off the top of my head. I think that could be a really popular song, actually, if somebody used that melody. Anyways, this can look a bit convoluted and a little bit complicated, but I'm going to break it down for you simply. And this is a clip from a longer video called The ABCs of FL Studio, which you can find in the description of this video if you want more simple tutorials on all things FL. So let's get started. Here on the right, we have dry, early reflection level, and wet. Dry is your input signal, and wet is the signal from the reverb. I'm not entirely sure what early reflection level is. I've never used it, and I've been producing for 10 years, so I honestly don't think you really need to mess with that one. Let's see, if we turn down the wet, you can hear the steel drum. It's basically like not having the reverb on at all. And the wetter it goes, the more reverb there is. Next, down here at the bottom, we have stereo separation. So the more this goes to the left, the wider it is. So I'm just going to move this to the left while playing the melody so you can hear the effect. And I usually just like to have that all the way to the left because when I'm putting reverb on a sound, the whole point is for it to be wide, so I like it just to be as wide as possible. But that's up to you, buddy. The world is your oyster. If you turn this to the right, it makes the signal mono, which gives it an interesting sound because reverb is usually wide. This is what that sounds like. And to the left of this little rectangle, we have bass multiplier, decay time, crossover frequency, and high damping. So this bass multiplier is, I never touched this either, so you probably don't need to mess with it, but it's basically going to make the lower frequencies in the reverb more pronounced. So you can kind of think of bass multiplier and high dampening as opposite controls. Like the high dampening is going to make whatever frequency you set this as more prominent in the reverb. Or if you go all the way to the right, it turns it completely off. Now, decay time is one of the most important parameters because that's going to determine how big your reverb sounds. If you have it at a longer decay time, it makes it sound huge. Shorter decay times make it sound like it's in a room. Now over here to the left, the most important parameter in this section is the size. This is going to determine the room size, and FL Studio has made a really cool visual accompaniment. No. FL Studio has a really cool visual representation of what is going on with the size. This is basically determining the size of the room that you want your sound to be in. So it's really good to use size and decay together to get the sound you're going for. For instance, if you have a small room size, you probably want a low decay time, because that sounds like it's in a bathroom or something, a small space with a low decay time. If you have the size up all the way, it puts it into a bigger room, which would usually have a longer decay time. But you can absolutely experiment with having a very small room size with a long decay time. And you can get interesting effects by using those together in different ways. Mod depth and mod speed are something I usually don't touch unless I'm purposefully trying to make like a creative effect, because you can get really crazy with it. Basically, the mod depth and mod speed are kind of like the mix depth and rate in a chorus. So if you turn mod up all the way and speed up all the way, it basically sounds like a really fast chorus. So I wouldn't even touch those unless you were really trying to do like creative weird effects. Diffusion is basically going to determine how many walls in the fake room you're creating with the reverb has. And FL Studio visualizes this to the side also. Like whenever you go down all the way, there's 3 walls and it sounds like it's in a small room. And it almost gives it like a delay. And then the more you go up, so you can just play with that and, you know, get it how you wanna. Up here at the top, we have pre-delay. This is gonna determine how long it takes for the reverb to be engaged. If we have this set high, it gives some time before the reverb is actually engaged. They have this tempo button that you can toggle on and off if you want to have a precise pre-delay time based on the BPM. And this pre-delay is very useful for whenever you have a vocal where you want the dry signal to really come through and then still have the feeling of the reverb come in afterwards, but still have your vocals be really crisp and upfront. It especially helps having the tempo toggled on because it'll do it perfectly to the BPM. And then last but not least, we have high cut and low cut. These are basically just high cut and low cut filters. So the high cut is going to determine at what frequency it starts cutting off the highs. So if you have this all the way up, it's not going to cut off any highs. And the lower you go down, the lower the cutoff is for the high cut filter. And the same thing with the low cut filter. All the way down is completely off. But if you go up, it takes out those low frequencies. And you can see what frequency is cutting off at the top left corner on the hint bar. And that's pretty much all you need to know for Fruity. And that's pretty much all you need to know for Fruity Reverb 2. And this video is a clip from a longer video called the ABCs of FL Studio, which you can find in the description of this video if you want more simple tutorials on all things FL Studio.